Hello, everyone. Welcome to Azure Takeoff Show. Again, we have our lovely guest with us, me and Hatim, as we're doing this show. So today, Hatim, I think you wanted to talk about Azure Logic Apps, right?
Yes. So in the past, Tasha, what we did was we started with compute as a platform. We
Mhm.
looked at virtual machine. We went to Azure Web Apps, and now the next best thing when you want to club that together or you want to utilize more services on this, Logic Apps actually can fit into a lot of different scenarios. And I'm really excited to talk about what Azure Logic Apps are and how we can try to implement that.
Cool. So let me get started. What is Logic App?
So Logic Apps, you can say it's a cloud platform
Mhm.
where you can run workflows, or you can do kind of a trigger based programming. So the best part is you have a visual designer available. You have connectors and pre-built operations, where what it will do is it will create a full workflow, or it will help you to actually go ahead and create that workflow which integrates with your applications, with your existing data, which is either on premises or on the cloud, any external services or applications which you're using. It will connect to that. And the best way is it simplifies this so much in terms of both developing that as well as when you're debugging it. It's really easy. And an addition to that is you can still connect your legacy system. So if you're building a cutting edge system and you still have your on premise database, or you have your hybrid systems available, it can connect to that. And if I tell you, it's a low code no code platform, right? So it's easier for the businesses to go ahead and start integrating that.
Cool. Great. So, Hatim, I also wanted to ask, like, there's Power Automate and Microsoft Flow. What's the difference between Logic App and these Power Automate and Microsoft Flow?
So, very good question. Out of the box, both of them are very similar in terms of functionalities. But when you talk about Logic Apps are used for building powerful integration based solutions.
Okay.
Uh, and in terms of Flow is where you want to do business process automations. Where you have your enterprise based applications, your business processes across different stages. And as you mentioned, it's part of the Power Platform, right? The Power Automate. So the Power Platform has multiple different things, like the Power Apps, your Power BI, Power Virtual Agents, and it's also connected to the M365, the whole landscape. So it's
Okay.
easier for you to do any kind of automations like that using Power Automate. And when you talk about Logic Apps, just keep this in mind. For example, you want to develop a solution which you have to add some extra assets from Visual Studio, or you need to
Mhm.
connect with an existing connector, or you want to deploy it on Azure and still have your solution connected to different Azure services. So that's where Logic Apps comes, and the other one is the Power Automate.
Okay. Now you talked about like Power Automate and all that, but there's also something called Azure Functions. What are the difference between Logic Apps and Azure Functions?
So Azure Logic Apps are very user friendly, as I said, right? You have
Mhm.
a designer available. It's a low code no code platform where you can actually go ahead and do a quick, uh, you can say, an integration or an automation in that case. Azure Functions on a level is a very developer centric tools, which
Okay.
helps you to actually still have kind of a bit of workflows, but you have a very high customization offers, and you can actually write code in that. Right here, you
Okay.
are working with a workflow, and there you have like durable functions, which is very developer friendly. You write code in that, and some complex tasks which you cannot complete in Logic Apps. But a good thing is, in one of the solutions in the past, I tried to combine both of them, where there was a code written in Azure Functions, and I wanted to use that part of execution to be done in a workflow. So Logic Apps
Okay.
helped me to call that Azure function and then use it.
So what are the other benefits of using Logic Apps too?
So Logic Apps is, you can consider it as a leading integration platform as a service, right? One of the benefit is you can run it anywhere, right? You
Mhm.
can go ahead and run it on a containerized runtime, or the portability is really, to reach everywhere. The best part is, or the benefits of using it is, you're automating your critical workflows which is present anywhere. I will give
Mhm.
you one example which, in the past I've actually worked on. Is we replaced a legacy system which actually, it was too complex, it was too hard to handle that. But we used logic apps and API management to actually go ahead and build a great integration platform which helped us getting data from, different parts of our business. So the
Mhm.
business was quite huge, and you had different departments and organizations, and it was very hard to, to try to have workflows and bring all this data to a central repository. So what we did is we tried to integrate API management as well as logic apps, and the end result was, it was so simplified. Even the business user can actually go ahead and check if the logic app is failing sometimes. You can, it's a very simple and uh, uh, you know very clean to look at it and try to find out issues from that.
Cool, cool. And also, like, what other scenarios? Like, I mean, you talked about how like business people can use it, and you combine all of these apps to some kind of a connector. Are there any other scenarios that Logic apps are actually great in using?
So it totally depends on, how you are actually building your system. So I will give you few more scenarios here, right?
Okay.
So because it's a trigger based workflow for Azure Logic Apps, you can actually do it as a timer based things, right? So for example, I want to send a status report to all my team by
Mm,
collecting some of the data from here and there at every day 9 in the morning, right? So whenever my team
okay.
comes to work, they can just receive an email, receive whatever happened in the past day, get all the reportings on one email, and that's it. It summarizes it, it does a trigger mechanism, and it gives me the output. But in some other scenario where you don't need to do it on a trigger based mechanism, you need to actually wait for a request to come in, and then
Mm,
depending on the request, you actually try to serve that query. So I'll give you another example. Is we wanted to actually take data from an IoT system, okay?
okay.
And what we did is, when we are fetching this IoT data system, there was a requirement where we wanted to parse, or make sure that logically, if at any point of time I wanted to parse a large amount of data, I used to have it based on an HTTP call. So whenever I would request that, it will go ahead, try to bring in all the IoT data, and then build you can say like a indoor navigation for me. So it
Okay.
was a trigger based mechanism. So I can do that on an HTTP request, I can do that on many different things I want. So another business example, if I give you, we had the service bus available in one of the applications in a microservices environment, and
Mhm.
whenever a message used to reach the service bus, depending on the message type and the content which was available, Logic App was integrated. As soon as the message received, we used to pass that message and then do whatever, either it has to be stored to a database, or it has to be sent to a user. How the process has to be managed was being taken care at the next step. So that's how, uh, you can really customize it to anything what you want to in that case.
So I mean, I was just thinking like all these ideas sort of thing. It was quite great. It's like almost like IoT comes in. There's some data, but you need to enhance it by going to, let's say, your SAP or your ERP system that has information of this thing.
Correct.
You can enhance it and then continue on. I mean, sometimes you might actually not have connection to it, but Logic App would kind of wait for it. Hey, I need to get this. That's the next stage. Enhance
Correct.
it, but it could be waiting for it to enhance and then send it over to whatever system that you need to do afterwards.
100%. And
Cool.
that's why, uh, you have a lot of ideas which you can actually implement. And I
Mm,
think it's mainly like, it's available for anything. You just go ahead. Maybe there is not a connector available for like a legacy application, but you can go ahead and build your own connector, right? So
yeah.
the
So
possibility is anything what you want to actually achieve
it's
here.
almost like Lego.
Yes,
You're building
100%.
Lego. So you could build a
Correct.
car, you could build an airplane. Now I wanted to get into like the juicy part. Do you have a demo
Yeah.
for it?
Great. So what I will do is, let me just
Mm,
go ahead and share my screen quickly.
sure.
So It's very easy to create a logic app in that case. So what you can do is you can actually go ahead and just directly search over here as logic apps, and you can go ahead and create a new logic app directly. Now I wanted to show what are the create mechanism very quickly, and then I have already created one to save some time for us, so I can just
Sure.
go ahead and demo that to you. But one of the things which I wanted to show in this ad pop-up is this is the usual stuff. You select your resource group, you put a name. Now, the best part is you can actually publish this as either a workflow or a container image, as well as you can select what type of consumption mechanism you want to use, right? In many scenarios where you are at an entry level, or you feel that it's a very trigger based solution which you have to develop, it's
Mhm.
always suggested that you actually go ahead and do a consumption plan, right? So in the consumption plans, it only goes ahead and charges you depending on the number of calls you actually make, or the workflow
Okay.
runs in that case, right? In terms of standard, what you do is uh, you go ahead and create an app service plan, and that app service plan will be your consumption tier for running the Azure Logic Apps.
Okay.
So this is kind of I usually go ahead and select the consumption plan for it's great for entry level, as well as you just pay for how many workflows you're actually executing in that case. So
Okay.
when I go back to the ones which I have created already, so let me go ahead, and I've created an Azure Takeoff show logic app. And the best part is you can actually see the code view as well. But I usually first try and have the logic app designer build everything on the UI, and then if there is
Mhm.
anything which I have to either parameterize, or I have to write an extra code for it, I can actually go ahead and do it in the code view. But when I go
Okay.
here in the designer, so you can see by default when you land over here, it will suggest you some common triggers available. So as I gave you an example where you can use a service bus, so that as soon as a message is received on service bus, you can hit this. You can do it for an HTTP request. You can do it for a recurrence, which is always runs, and you have many other connectors available. So you just have to go ahead and select the category of the connector
Mhm.
you want, and depending on that, you can actually go ahead and select it. I will just take you through quickly one or two, common ones. For example, when a new file is created in Dropbox, copy it to OneDrive, right? So this
Okay.
is this is where you are bringing in third party connectors as well. I gave you one example of sending a report to your email. It's a reminder, something you
Mhm.
want it to be sent on your email. So there are multiple options available. For this quick demo, what I want to do is I want to do a simple HTTP request. This
Okay.
HTTP request, and as you can see, you have a designer window available.
Mhm.
The designer window, as soon as you start with, you have because I selected the HTTP trigger, you have the HTTP request. Whenever your post request is received, what will be your request body? How are you going to to? So what I will do is I will just run a very quick sample here. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and enter a sample JSON payload over here. So I've
Okay.
entered a sample JSON payload, which includes my street name, street number, street name, town, and my postal code over here, right? So when I'm done with this, I will just go ahead and save it. So my save option is over here. Okay. As soon as I saved it, my post URL is already generated out here. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, what I want to do is this URL, if I paste it directly and put it on the browser, the example it uses right now the post request, right?
Yeah.
So what I want to do is I want to actually take a callback URL for this, okay, and also take the trigger history in that case. So I can take the callback URL from here, which is present directly on the top, or I can actually go ahead and see it in my Logic App settings as well, where I can take the overview and I can see the trigger history, or I can take the callback URL as well. Okay. Now what I want to do is I will go ahead and create a new parameter over here. Okay. Add a new parameter, and I want to use a method. The method trigger, it's a custom parameter. So what will happen
Mhm.
is it will let me go ahead and show you this, which is when you click the method parameter, I want to actually go ahead and add the parameter as a get parameter here.
Okay.
Okay, so I want to accept these values as a get, and in the parameters should be in the URL parameters itself. Okay, so I will go ahead, I'll put that in, and for example I will take the relative I can take the relative path as a parameter, or I can search for different parameters as well. Now what I'm going to do is I will take a get parameter over here, and in the get parameter, let me just go ahead. I will remove this parameter for now. I'll just put get as my request, and I will create a new step here, which is my response step. So when I go ahead, I can just search for a response because I want to give the response to the user.
Mhm.
So the request response is available over here. When I add this to my step, I will zoom out and show it to you. So what happened is your HTTP request is received. Now the next step is the response. So at the end of the day, from the UI designer, you can actually get a lot of things over here. Now what I want to do is I want to actually go ahead and put the trigger outputs over here. So trigger outputs for this, what I will do is I will take the queries and the parameter name from the query which I'm been passing over here. So what I will do is here in the response body, I will go ahead and enter the response content, and the expression, I will put this expression for having the trigger outputs as is. Okay. And
Okay.
when I click OK, so I have my trigger outputs available over here. And now, if I save this directly, so when I save this, if you see over here, I have in the Logic app, when I go to my designer again, the suggestion actually shows me what are the different things which are available over here, right?
Mhm.
So let me just go ahead and enter one of these. So yes, as we added the trigger function, I just have to go back from the designer and come back again, and I can see the parameter name which I mentioned is available over here, right? So whatever the
Mhm.
parameter name I'm putting in, I can actually see that over here. Now what we want to do is I want to actually pass this parameter in the URL, and I want to show that with a a sample text out there. So what I will do here is, instead of having this parameter name as is, I'll put a text which, for example, I want to show this postal code which is present in the URL, and
Mhm.
then I will go ahead and put the parameter name which I wanted to put in. So the one which we created before. So I will just go
Mhm.
ahead and put the same parameter name again using the expressions. So I will put this over here, go to my expressions, and add the same parameter over here. I will save this. Okay, and I just need to navigate back again to see my parameter name here. Okay, now what I need to do is I need to go ahead and test this, right? For testing this one of the things which we haven't done is we haven't set the relative URL for us, right? Of where our parameter should actually pick this value, right? So what
Yeah.
we need to do is we can directly put an ampersand in our URL prefix, and we can go ahead and do that as well. So let me just go ahead and maybe copy this URL first, open a new tab. Okay, paste this URL and add a parameter over here, where this parameter I can put it as directly as my parameter name, which is Parameter, and this is what my name was, and where I can put the actual value which I want to put there,
Mhm.
right? What I can do is I can just go ahead and put the parameter name. So I think I added an extra this, and I will put 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, when I run this, if you see over here, it actually took the same text which I've added before, went and posted this. I will just zoom in a bit
Okay.
so that you can see
Mhm.
this. So as you see over here, the parameter name was added in the URL parameters, and I could actually go ahead and print that. So the
Okay.
the the feature is like where this is just one of the steps, right? I can add an if condition, I can add a parallel branch, I can do a lot of things with this. This demo was just to show you, what is the possibility of having something like this, working at your end as well.
Yeah, okay. So this is a simple HTTP one, but there could be many other ones, recurring
Correct.
ones, and all these other like getting information from another system, Slack message or a Teams message that could be actually getting to. Actually, it kind of reminded me of Power Apps too, Power Automate.
Yes.
Some of the UI. Yeah.
Correct,
So
correct. So it is so similar. At the end of the day, when you don't see the title of Logic Apps or Power Automate, it's hard to recognize. And one of the things is there are few things which are available only on Power Automate. Uh, which is easily usable
Mm.
in rather than the logic apps in that case.
Okay, cool. So, Hatim, last thing. Any call for actions for people? What do you want them to do?
So there is a very good learn module available. What I
Okay.
will do is I will paste the link of that URL in the show description. Go
Mm.
ahead and actually understand how you can use logic apps. There are so many scenarios available out there which you can actually use it. Try that out. Use the built-in connectors, or you have your own managed connectors also as well added on top of that. There
Mm.
is a huge library of that. Go ahead and try that out, and there are a lot of tutorials available as well, so you can just go ahead and try that out. So to get started, I would request you to actually go ahead, follow that URL, and get yourself a pro uh, understanding about what Azure Logic Apps is.
Thank you so much, Hatim. That was great, quite fruitful. I learned quite a bit about Logic Apps and all the differences between it. So, we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks a lot, Dashwar. It's really good to have these kind of sessions, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you.
Thank you. And
Bye
remember to
bye.
subscribe.
Yes. Bye
Take
bye.
care. Bye.